Hey guys, welcome to BP, the Bible Perspective. Borrowing from the old Negro saying, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, a mind is a wonderful thing to shape. And I don't mean that in a good way. Before I explain though, please like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section. All comments are welcome. You know, in this push now for reopening America, I'm using the statement in a twisted way. A mind is a terrible thing to waste to a mind is a wonderful thing to shape. And that's what's kind of going on, is that our minds are being conditioned to accept certain realities or unrealities, truths and untruths. Of course, the media is wonderful at that. I want to say that when you're looking at different television, the way that whether it's news or secular television, dramas, TV, they are all used to condition what we see, what we hear, can shape what we think. And in a lot of cases, it could even cause us to disregard reality altogether. In fact, I can imagine what would have happened in 1776 if television was around. Now, I say that because the word cognitive dissonance, a very interesting word or phrase, it simply means that you can hold two opposing ideas at the same time. In other words, you could say, I hate crime, while at the same time, killing people. Gangsters used to do that, remember. They were family people, upstanding church members in some cases, but ruthless killers. Now, I'm not going all off on the cognitive dissonance. What I want to focus on is this notion of reopening America and how the conversation has shifted from the seriousness of coronavirus to we need to open America. And even to the point that there are people that are even suggesting, not even suggesting, but just outright saying, even if it cost us lives. Remember, Dr. Oz got in trouble with that. They said, hey, we could get the kids back to school. We would only lose 2 or 3% of them. And that's acceptable. He had to backtrack, of course. Of course, Dr. Phil was on Fox News. By the way, all these people were on Fox News. I'll get to that in a moment. The significance of that. Dr. Phil, of course, went on Fox News and said the same thing. Well, so many people die of the flu, and people die of this, and people die of that, but we didn't shut the country down for it. Then, of course, way back there was Dr. Drew, who downplayed the significance of the virus in the first place. Well, you also have Republican governors who are pushing now because they count, because these are men of authority. They lead states. They make policy. And they are pushing to reopen their states. Now, I mentioned Republicans just a moment ago because mostly it's these Republicans that are pushing for the reopening of their states. But I'm saying this, that despite the fact of the reality. Now, what is the reality? Let me go back to my chart here. COVID-19 chart. In America, let me do this. I'm going to do two of them. I'm going to do two charts. All right, so here's the reality. And then I'm going to talk about the conditioning to just ignore the reality. And that's my point here. Remember back in January, back in around December going into January, news of the COVID-19 and the rapid infectious nature of it, this easily spread, began to break. You remember that our government ignored it, downplayed it. Well, since that time, nearly 4 million people have been infected with this case. I'm going to come back to some of these numbers because I'm going to show you something now. There have been 270,000 deaths. This is worldwide. With 1,000,003 people who have recovered. Now again, this 1,000,003 number is not as important because it shifts, and especially when you put it into context. When you break it down to nations, America leads the world in most infected cases. This is the reality now. So I want to show you something. 1,000,002 cases, total cases of infected COVID-19 since January, with 76,000 people who have died from COVID-19 since January. Now, when we go, just to give you this number, 1.2 million, Spain, we drop all the way to 256,000 cases. So that's the big, to show you just in the sense of what the heck is going on in America. In other words, when you look at Spain, Italy, UK, they're in the 200,000s, Russia, France, Germany, Turkey, Brazil, Iran in the 100,000s, and then it goes under 100,000 from there, different other nations. China, you can't trust China. Anyway, I'm not going to get into them, but let me go back to America now, because now there is a push. Now, what had happened is that the virus began to spread. The first recorded cases of COVID-19 hit in January 21st, and again, our government didn't do anything. It wasn't until March when all of a sudden people, about March, when people begin to say we need to, stop the infection rate here. It was just that serious. Now, the whole point was that, let me just say this, from the beginning, the lack of information. Remember I said, the mind is a terrible thing, a wonderful thing to shape, a terrible thing to waste. One of the reasons why is because of the lack of information. By the way, that saying, the mind, the terrible thing to raise, was the United Negro College Fund. They used to have a commercial that they would say that why waste your mind? And it's so applicable today with the virus because a lot of people really don't know what is going on with the virus. What is the virus? How do we I'm sorry, how do we get infected by this virus? And these are things that we need to know in order to, especially if you're going to reopen. But the problem is that they're pushing to reopen, and now they're shaping the minds. We're being conditioned that even if people die, it is better that we reopen. Glenn Beck, remember, came out and said that, you know what, people should die for the nation. Lieutenant Governor Patrick of Texas said the same thing, that, as grandparents, we should be willing to die for the next generation. Now, don't think that gets kind of like loose lips. Here's the thing. It's a conditioning. The masses are easy to condition. How do you think we got Donald Trump? And for that matter, any other president, to be fair. The point is that we're being conditioned that now it is more important, to reopen the nation, even if it kills people. So that when people die, we needed to do it. Now here's a problem with that. Were there better options? Are there better options, than to just let people die? Can you put other things into effect than to just let people die? You see, my point is, people, there are more effective measures than to just let people die. But we're being conditioned to let people die and say, it's okay. And it's not okay. Especially when you have better options than to just let people die. So, for example, if you're going to reopen America, educate people. Information. Go on, do public service statements. Just like now, it's so common for me to wear seatbelts. It's instinctive. When the first laws came out, man, I was like, oh my God, they're restricting me. But now it's just natural. Public service about what is this virus, how to avoid it. Because you can. Again, I see people driving their car wearing masks. They need information. What is driving wearing a mask? That's just an example. But at the same time, if you get off your car and put your hand on the gas pump, you can contract the disease there. Information. Another thing is testing. Do aggressive testing. Look at the nations of those who have done aggressive testing. And one of the things you find with them is that, guess what? They have been able to control the spread of the disease. Now, why is that? Because if you know who's infected, you can isolate them. One of the arguments of people saying today about reopening, and it's a valid point, and that is they're saying, why should the well be quarantined with the sick? Good point. But how do you identify? See, how do you identify who's who? You have to test. Now, people are being acclimated to this new environment of dealing with COVID-19, social distancing. Again, but we need to wash hands. Make sure we do things like that. Why do we wear a mask? We ought to know. So my point is that rather than just to rush to reopen, because if you reopen and people don't know what they're doing, people will die. And it's not okay. It's not okay that I died being an elderly gentleman. It's not okay that my wife died being the same age as me. To me, it's not okay that anyone dies, especially when they don't have to. Okay, guys, that is my perspective. And please don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And don't forget, if you want to throw in a comment, do so. Until next time, I'll see you then.